Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad that you're here. We would love to know more about everyone who is with us today. So please introduce yourselves in the chat feature. We'd love to know your name, where you're joining us from, one thing you're excited about for your student to experience here at Temple. You can use the chat feature down on the bottom of your screen. And just take a few moments to introduce yourselves. We'd love to know your name, where you're joining us from, and then something you're excited for your students to do for their experience here at Temple University this fall. If you are just joining us, welcome. We are very excited to have you with us. We're going to get started in just a moment. I'd like to give folks a few moments to log in and join us. Thank you so much, Melissa, joining us not too far away in Louisville, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for being here. Please feel free to send your message in the chat feature down there on the bottom of your screen. Let us know where you're coming from. Let us know something that your student is excited for this fall at Temple. We're excited that Melissa, your student will be going to Tyler. That's exciting. We have a North Jersey friend joining us. She's excited about all that Temple has to offer. Another Pennsylvania friend joining us. Thank you so much for being here. And your student's going to be in the marching band. That's very exciting. We love when the marching band plays for Homecoming and Family Week and gets everybody excited and pumped to cheer on our owls. Thank you all so much. North Carolina, this is exciting. We have someone from very close at home in Philadelphia. We also have someone from Northern California joining us. You might be from the furthest away so far. Welcome in. We also have someone from Chicago. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. But as I'm chatting, please feel free to continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. So hello and welcome to the Ask the Experts, the Family Role in Student Success webinar. My name is Brandy Jericho Beach, and I am the Parent and Family Program Coordinator for the Office of New Student and Family Programs here at Temple University. We are so glad that you decided to join us, and we would love to know more about everyone who's with us today. So please continue to introduce yourselves into the chat feature. Include your name, where you're from, so we know who's joining us. We have enabled closed captions for this session, and to view those captions, please click Captions and then select Show Captions. This session will be recorded, and the slides and the links will be shared after today on the Parent and Family Orientation Hub. The Office of Student Affairs plays a vital role in supporting your student success both inside and outside the classroom. Through programs, services, and resources that foster student engagement, well-being, leadership, and personal growth, the division is committed to helping students thrive throughout their Temple experience. Today, we are joined by Dr. Jodi Bailey, who will share more about the Office of Student Affairs and the many ways it supports students. Following Dr. Bailey's presentation, we'll have time for a question and answer session for the remainder of our time together. We will get started with our presentation and Q&A in just a moment, but there are a few announcements we'd like to share first. You've likely noticed that your audio and your video are muted. You can see and hear us, but we can't hear and see and hear you. So please submit your questions by using the Q&A feature. To do so, you just click the Q&A button to open the window, then type your question in the text field. And if you want your question to be anonymous, just click the Send Anonymously button, and then click Send. Your question will not be viewable to the rest of the participants until it has been answered. We will share helpful links related to the questions that have been asked in the chat, so make sure to check the chat feature throughout the event. We'll do our very best to answer as many questions as we can today, and if we're unable to answer all of the questions, we'll provide contact information at the end for you to follow up with us on your specific question. Okay, I'd like to now welcome Dr. Jodi Bailey to our webinar. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jodi Accavallo, and I have the privilege of serving as our Vice President for Student Affairs here at Temple University. And on behalf of the entire community, I want to say a huge welcome. We are incredibly excited to have our newest owls, the parents and family members and loved ones who've helped them reach this milestone. For months, many of you for years have been preparing for this moment, and you've visited campuses, you've completed applications, you've celebrated acceptances and held helped your student navigate one of the biggest transitions that their life is going to have thus far. And now that transition is becoming real, and your student is no longer preparing to be a Temple student, but they are a Temple student. And this is a really exciting a moment, but can also be a little bit emotional. And so today's conversation is really about that transition. We'll talk about what your student is experiencing, what you may be experiencing as a family, how your role changes during the college years, and how our Division of Student Affairs and our partners can help you transition and help your students thrive. And so one thing I want to acknowledge right away is that transitions are hard for everyone. I always tell my family that while my favorite color palette for a neutral tone is gray, gray is hard to live in when you are coming and going. It's usually easier to have a checklist and understand things. And so you're going to find your students wondering, well, will I make friends? Will I like my roommate? Can I handle college classes? Will I fit in? And at the same time, you all might be wondering, will my student be okay? Will they remember to eat, sleep, study, and ask for help? How much should I step in? How much should I step back? And those are all completely normal questions for everyone. And so for many families, this might be the first time someone has been part of your daily routine for nearly 18 years and then is no longer at home. And family dynamics shift, routines change, and there might be exciting moments and then sad ones the next. And your student comes home from school during the fall break, and then everybody realizes they've changed just a little bit. And that adjustment is normal too. One of the biggest transitions isn't simply that your student is leaving home, it's that your relationships begin to evolve and your home life changes. So for nearly 18 years, you've answered the questions, you've solved the problems, you've offered advice and helped make decisions. But that doesn't mean that once your student hits college that they don't need you anymore. It means they need you differently. And I often think about this using the example of a coach. And so the great thing about a coach is that a good coach doesn't play the game for the athlete. They prepare them. They encourage them and they challenge them, and they can help them learn from their mistakes. And most importantly, they help the athlete believe that they're capable of succeeding on their own. As parent and family members, you've been coaching your students for years. And now as they begin college, your coaching role continues, but from the sidelines rather than on the field. And there will be moments when your instinct is to jump in and solve the problem, and that's natural. And every parent wants to make things easier. But some of the greatest growth happens when the students are given the opportunity to work through the challenges while knowing they have people who believe in them and are a support network for them. One of the greatest gifts you can give your student is the confidence that says, I know you can handle this, and I am here if you need me. And that doesn't mean stepping away completely. In fact, no one knows your student better than you do, but you know when something sounds different in their voice, you know when they're excited, and you know when they're discouraged, and you know when something doesn't quite feel right. And continue checking in and continue asking those questions. But when the challenges arise, try shifting from solving the problem to helping your student think through it. And those are asking questions, right? Open-ended questions like, what have you tried? Who on campus might be able to help you? What do you think your next step is? And those conversations help students develop confidence, resilience, and the ability to advocate for themselves. Those are the skills that they'll be using for the rest of their lives. And so one of the things we know from years of working with students is that the first 6 weeks of college matter. So when you think about it, they're going to be moving in during that second week of August. So really by that first week of October, they're going to have solidified how their college experience is going to start roll out. That's in the friendships that they build, the organizations that they go and visit or join, the habits that they develop. The faculty and staff that they meet will often shape the rest of their college experience, and encouraging your students to say yes to those opportunities will matter. Encouraging them to go to the events that are happening, like our weeks of welcome, to introduce themselves to someone new, to visit a professor's office hours, to attend programs, and to try joining a student organization. So with that, Temple has more than 400 student organizations because we know that that connection leads to belonging, and belonging matters. And those organizations are for students by students. They've created them. And if there's something that's not there that your student is interested in, they will have the ability to work on that as well. Students who feel connected are more likely to thrive academically, socially, and personally. And that's a word that we like to use in student affairs is thrive. Thriving versus surviving matters. When you are thriving, you are healthy. You are moving forward with decision making. You are taking a chance, taking a challenge, having a conversation versus surviving, which is you are eating, you are sleeping, and you're doing the bare minimum. So when you're thinking about your student, they might just be surviving for a moment, but the goal is to have them begin to thrive as they are at their college experience. And so, as your student begins to build those connections, I also want you to know that their support system isn't getting smaller, it's getting bigger. And at Temple, the Division of Student Affairs, our entire team exists to help students thrive, not only academically, but emotionally, socially, physically, and personally. And our work is grounded in helping students develop independence while making sure they know that they never have to navigate challenges alone. We support our students through counseling services, health services, wellness education, leadership opportunities, student organizations, residence life, public safety, academic partnerships, programs, housing, all of the things that they are doing to belong to our community together. And one area that has become increasingly important in supporting our student success efforts is making sure that students' basic needs are met. And so when I use the word basic, I'm thinking of things that are essential. And so at Temple, we have created the Essential Needs Hub. The Essential Needs Hub was created because it takes a lot just to get up North Broad, and not just physically, but emotionally, financially, transportation wise. And once you get there, once you get up into your classroom, then we're asking you to do 8 hours of work every day to be able to thrive academically. And so when you think about kind of basic needs work, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, if you don't know how you're going to get to your classes, you're never going to be able to thrive because you are just trying to survive. And so our Essential Needs Hub brings all of those services together where students have an ethos of care. Every single person who goes into the hub is going to have help with food security, housing support, emergency funding, technology, and other basic resources that help them navigate unexpected challenges before those challenges affect their academic success, and reinforcing that asking for help is a strength. And so when students know their basic needs are being met, they're going to be able to focus on their learning. They're going to be able to build those relationships, and they're going to make the most of their college experience. When you come to campus, when your student is here, you will be able to visit the Essential Needs Hub. Intentionally, it is on the first floor of our Howard Gittes Student Center. That's our main building on campus where students will go. We have 1 million visitors come through that building a year, and it is where our students go to be able to get all of the different support services that they need. And so another area that families often ask us about are academics. And so many students who were highly successful in high school discover that college is more challenging than they expected. I would say that I was one of those students. When you are in high school, you have a structured class, right? You know exactly where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. Everybody's walking in the same direction to get there. You have a space to put your stuff. Your teacher tells you what you're supposed to do. You know exactly the next day where you're going to be sitting every single day. That is not college. You do not have an assigned seat. You do not have somebody telling you what time you should be leaving to get to the next class. There's no bells, there's no alarms, and there's no whistles to send you on your way. And so classes move faster. Expectations are different. Students manage their own schedules, their responsibility, and time in ways they may have never had to before. And that can be very difficult for both students and families. One disappointing grade, but things that you should know is that one disappointing grade does not define a semester. One difficult semester does not define a college career, and growth comes through challenges. College level classes are meant to challenge you. If you are acing them, perhaps you're not challenging yourself enough in your classes to be able to learn more than what you were already doing. And so that's when you have the conversation with your faculty member. I love this class. This is what I'm thinking of doing for my job in my future. What should I be doing next? How should I be reading this literature to be able to soak it in a particular way? And so growth will happen. And if your student is struggling, you'll be able to encourage them to seek help early, knowing the resources that we have, and thinking about the fact that talking with professors matters, talking with academic advisors matters, using tutoring resources that we have, asking questions in the classroom. I have two boys, they're 14 and 16 right now, and I'm constantly telling them, ask a question when you're in this space. And they always tell me that is so embarrassing. Remember that you are paying for them to be in that classroom. And what I do with my orientation to college classes, I actually break down what I'm paying in tuition and fees for the year. And then you can break it down by class. And then you can know I'm paying $200 every time you go to this class. So you should be asking a question if you are confused or not sure or need some help. Our staff and our faculty and our staff are here to support one another, support our students, but students also celebrate those successes together. They support one another in difficult moments. They are parts of teams to do the work. They build those friendships that last long after graduation. And we are incredibly connected to the city of Philadelphia. And so your student isn't simply attending a university located in Philly, but they're becoming part of this city and they're going to learn here and they're going to serve here and they're going to work here and they're going to build their relationships here, whether that's through internships or activities or just going out and exploring. And those experiences will shape who they become because college is one of life's biggest transition and there's going to be exciting days. And you need to be okay with knowing that there's going to be difficult days. Most days will probably include a little bit of both for you and for the student. As families, remember that your role isn't becoming less important. It is evolving. You get to decide who you're going to be for that person as they become an adult. But you're still one of your students' biggest supporters and you're their most trusted voices and you're still their coach. And we're honored to be part of your coaching staff. And together we'll encourage them, challenge them, celebrate their successes, and help them learn from setbacks and support them as they become confident, resilient, and compassionate people at and members of our Temple community. And so for me, as a mother of two, I just want to say thank you for trusting us with what matters the most to you. And thank you for spending time with us today. And really, I wanted to make sure that we have enough time for all of you to ask the questions that you need and where to go from here.
Thank you so much, Jodi. I would love to encourage everyone to please post questions that you have in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen where you see the question mark, and we will pose them to Dr. Bailey and have her answer your questions. So one of our first questions here is, how can families support their students while also encouraging independence?
So I will tell you that I am a Virgo and I am a problem solver by nature. And so I generally have to take a pause and ask an open-ended question that says, what do you think we should do in this situation instead of giving them the answer? Asking them what their plan of attack might be, talking through it before they make that attack so you can say that might work. You know, you might just want to pay attention to X, Y, or Z. It's the same thing as when you when you were tying your kids' shoelaces for them and it was done immediately and you were, I'm ready to go, versus standing next to them and watching them tie those shoelaces for what seems like an inordinate and uncomfortable amount of time, but you knew that they needed to tie their shoelaces. This is going to be the same thing. You have to watch them do it, and you have to be uncomfortable if you know that perhaps it's not going the right way the first time. You have to let them try, and you have to let them try again. And there might be a time where you might have to jump in and retie those shoelaces, but you have to give them the chance to be able to do that. And so, on a practical level at college, I would say, I would really not make them call you every single day. I would shoot them a text, say, how's it going? Is there anything you need? How are you feeling? I actually always ask my boys, how's your spirit today? Because it gives me a little bit of a barometer versus a good, fine, that's it. Um, but I would also say, ask them what's happening in their life in ways that they have to answer you, right? So thinking about yes and no questions versus open-ended questions. Thinking about taking a look at the calendar and understanding in our office and parent and family programs helps you do this. What's coming down the pike? Here are the questions that you might want to ask your students. But I would say, this summer, if you haven't started it already, I would start backing off from the problem solving and becoming a think tank for your student for how to solve that problem.
So much, Jodi. I know with my kiddos, I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I often ask them, share with me your rose for the day and your thorn for the day. And that gets them to open up a little bit more too, so that it's not just those open-ended questions. So I love your advice there.
And
So
what people should know is that Brandy is doing the same thing that you are. She too is a new parent of a new student coming to a university. And so she's going through, not only she creating the webinar, she also is the webinar. And so we've thought long and hard about how to give you information based off of the experiences that we're also in the throes of having.
absolutely. And now that I'm actually sitting in the same seat as all of our, first year families usually do, it's a different lens for sure. And it's definitely opened me up to the questions and understanding the questions more that parents have as their students embark on their college journeys. So this advice and this knowledge is very, very valuable. We have another question that is, in your experience, Jodi, what surprises families most about the first 6 weeks of college, do you think?
That's a great question. I think that it is that everybody fakes it. So if your child is saying that my roommate is just doing the most amazing, some people are better at faking it till they make it than others, and that everybody struggles. I find it ironic because I went to a very large university for my undergrad work, and it was very much like Temple. And I cried and cried and cried for an entire semester. And I came home during Thanksgiving, and my mom said, well, you could stay right here. Don't go back to school. You can stay here with me. And I laugh now, and I still tell her, I'm like, Mom, that is the worst advice you could have ever given me because it is a process for everyone. And so my advice would be have them stay for as long as they can because the nights and the weekends where people are communing and bonding together, that matters. And if you go home immediately, you're not in that thick of uncomfortableness that everybody else is, and they're bonding a little bit. I hate to say it this way, but a little trauma bonding is happening, right? They're new and they're getting there. And if you say, come home within the first couple weeks, it doesn't allow for that experience where they say, okay, I can do this. And then they really don't click the same way. The other thing is that they should be going to class all of the time. And if within the first week the class schedule is not the right schedule for them, fix it immediately because there's nothing worse than not attending class and then later on having to late withdraw from it and getting a bad grade. It's okay if your kid does not like an 8 a.m. class. I hate 8 a.m. meetings. And so really thinking about what is their natural rhythm to be able to be successful matters. And so if it is that they thrive during brunch and early dinner hours, great, let them take those classes. If they do not thrive now for 8 a.m., and there's that difference, right? Because all the kids have to go to school at that time. If you know if your kid's going to be able to do that 8 a.m. class. If they cannot, do not put them in it. Change the schedule so that they are able to do it. But ask them questions. They are going to have midterm grades. They are going to have final grades. They are going to have class every single week. By law, we have to have a certain number of classes. If they're telling you they don't have class, first of all, that's not true. But second of all, they have a syllabus that outlines the work that they're supposed to be doing. And they don't realize that it is, um, oh, it's like compound interest, really. If you don't do it at the beginning, at the end, you're not going to be able to make up all of those homework assignments because they compound one after each other. And so, really thinking about how are they managing their time and how are they doing that incremental work week by week. That's what I would say because those are the sneak attacks that you don't realize are happening.
Thank you so much. We have a question about safety. So for some of our students, this is going to be their first time in the urban environment. So what is your advice and guidance to students about safety on and off campus?
I will tell you that my background is in large urban universities. And so when I say these things, this has been for 25 years. I've worked in New York City, I've worked in Jersey City, I work in Philadelphia. And so I've worked in these spaces and done this work where safety matters no matter what. And so the first thing that I would say is that it doesn't matter where you come from, there are some habits that should always be out there, right? You should always be aware of your surroundings. You should never be doing what I'm doing right now and walking with both AirPods in. You should always be able to hear what's happening around you. In a large city, and I do this myself and I have for a long time, I don't walk with my phone out because then that people know that I'm not paying attention to what's happening around me. Put the phone in the pocket while you're walking. I can walk with an earpiece in and talk to you, but I don't have my phone out looking like this. It's not a great idea. I would say anybody who is choosing to walk should be walking where things are lit. They should be walking where there are other people, taking some random path on down a random street that you don't know at 1 a.m. is always a bad idea. It doesn't matter where you are. I think that really going over some just general personal safety protocols before anyone, and if you have a student that's going to another college, I would say this for all of them, understand your general safety. No one cares about your person. And I mean me, like nobody cares about Jodi Bailey as much as Jodi Bailey does, right? So I have to be smart about where I am, when I am, and how I am, and really thinking about that. The other thing I would say is that our students don't have their frontal lobes fully developed, and they choose decisions that I think would give me a heart attack. Every day, I'm like, I can't believe so and so thought that. I think it with my sons. And so, reinforcing as much smart decision making processes as you can. 2 a.m. in the middle of the night in a poorly lit place is not a great idea for anyone, anytime. And so, just knowing that they are in charge of their space, knowing the apps that they can utilize from Temple. We have walking escorts, we have shuttles, we have police department locations, we have business partners on the streets that have signs that say, "Welcome Temple student. If you are in trouble, come into this space." The biggest safety issue is the lack of education and the lack of ownership on your own safety. And so, really thinking about that matters. This is where we are adults living in our own space, owning your own space and being thoughtful about that space to make the best decisions, the best that you can, most of the time matters.
Wonderful, great of those. Thank you. Our next question is about if you could explain more about what the role of academic advisors and resident assistants it is in keeping an eye on students. So how do they determine when a student might be in crisis, either academically or psychologically?
I will tell you that it's not a daily eye on somebody. It's not an academic or a housing babysitter of sorts, right? The resident assistant has 50 students that are on a floor. They are there to make sure operationally the floor is doing well, that there are programs, that if a student needs a resource, that they are knowledgeable about those resources. They are trained in emergency protocols. They are trained to understand where to guide a student if they are having a crisis. They are keeping an eye on things. I haven't seen Brandy in a few days, so I'm going to go and check on them. But they're not going to say, "Brandy, have you eaten today?" That's not really what's going to happen there. They are a leader on the floor to be able to make sure the floor is functioning and that students have the resources that they need. And so the student is always welcome to go to the RA. The RAs have required programs that they have to do to make sure that people are getting the information they need. They have one-on-one meetings to ask how students are doing. Are you surviving or are you thriving? They have socials so that people can get together, and they interact all day long with the students, but they are not going to consistently know what all of the things are that are happening with your student every day. They are part of the community that lives on the floor. The same is with the academic advisor. The academic advisor is there to guide the student and answer the questions and give them the best advice that they can regarding their classes, regarding what's coming up and how classes are structured and the rhythm of them, getting them to support services should they need them. But they're not going to be checking in every week with the student. That's not what their role is. It's probably a couple times a semester to reach out and say, "Hey, how are things going? Hey, it's getting time to schedule for your next semester. Let's talk about what internship or what job that you're aspiring to get to and what classes might do that the best for you." That's where we say it is very important for your student to create the connections around them, talking with the roommate. The roommate might say to the RA, "Hey, my roommate doesn't seem to be doing well. Can somebody check on her?" Or I need language to be able to say to Brandy that it's going to be okay, that she's having a tough time with her significant other right now because they're far away from each other and it's their first time. How can I provide resources? That's really what our teams do, is give the students the tools and the language to be able to have those conversations. They will all, of course, jump in if there is something that has alerted us that there is an emergency, that there is a little bit more of an area to be concerned about. But day-to-day life management is not what will happen in either of those arenas.
So much. We have a question from a parent wondering about whether we have a healthcare center here on campus for students to use for their physical wellness.
We 100% do. That's actually one of the great things about Temple, is that we are not just a health center. We actually have a fully functioning healthcare center for our students. And so you can get your physical appointments. Just as an example, as a young woman, your daughter could go to have her yearly appointments with the health center. There are doctors, there are nurses, there are nurse practitioners and physician assistants. There's full mental health counseling that we have available. They do more acute. So if there's something that is longer term, they will connect you with membership in the community. And so, say, for instance, you have somebody who is coming in from Oregon and is looking for a longer term wellness provider. We can have meetings and we can say, okay, talk to us about what you're looking for. Here's the best provider that we can find locally that might assist you with your day-to-day services. But we find a lot of our students have acute wellness needs, right? It's anxiety about tests. It's anxiety or depression about not being home. It's relationship issues that they might have. And so really dealing with those and helping our students through them. But yes, we have a very robust, and they will get all of that information. We have fairs, we have programs, we have wellness resources about alcohol, other drugs, and relationships. We have all of that on campus.
So much. So we have a parent who recently attended orientation, which is wonderful.
I hope it
And
was mine.
yes, I hope so too. But I do know that we talk about the weeks of welcome during orientation to let folks know that their students do have things planned for them at the beginning. So they're just wondering, what is the purpose of weeks of welcome? Will it help get students acclimated to campus life? And will anybody be encouraging the students to actually leave their residence halls and get out there and explore?
So absolutely. From the 30,000-foot level, all of those offices and organizations and departments all fall underneath the Division of Student Affairs. And so the team in parent and family programs, the team in housing and residence life, and the teams in student engagement and leadership all work together to create this beautiful symphony of chaos the first couple weeks of school, where we are having programs, we are having lunches, we are having fairs, we're having convocations, we're having tours. All of these things are happening where the RAs and the club leaders and our student athletes and our team members are all getting students out, where they guide them from the residence halls over to convocation, and from convocation over to weeks of welcome, where our Temple Fest Club Fair kicks off. There are people that are constantly moving. Our orientation leaders are constantly pushing our students out and into the events that we have. And it's funny because I was just setting my calendar to make sure I remember the rhythm of what's going to happen in late August. And I always put after convocation, do not schedule, because I love going outside and walking around and watching Temple Fest happen. It is thousands of kids roaming campus with their cherry and white clothing on, going from booth to booth to find out what the clubs have, eating all of the foods that North Philadelphia has to offer them. But our teams are intentionally, it might look like chaos, but there's an intentional rhythm that is happening where, and I always tell my teams this, if I seem like I'm talking off the cuff, it is because I've rehearsed it so often that it looks like that. That is the same thing for all of the events that are happening on campus. If it seems like there's just so much going on and it's so loud and it's so There's intentionality behind every single piece and every single thing that we are doing, from tours for how to get to your classroom on the Sunday night before the first day of classes, when we're having our floor meetings and with the RAs and with the peer mentors that are inside the residence halls, when the academic advisors are reaching out to say, good luck with your first day of classes. All of those intentional touch points matter, and we are purposefully corralling our students into one space where they are all together to be able to find each other.
Absolutely. I love Weeks of Welcome because, the community and the campus is vibrant during the summer, but it just comes alive during Weeks of Welcome. And I absolutely love welcoming in all the new students and seeing them out and about, especially at, Temple Fest, where they're getting that sense of all the student organizations and clubs. It's really a very energizing time around here on campus, for sure. So Jodi, I have a follow-up question about that for you. And a parent is wondering specifically if commuter students are able to be involved in Weeks of Welcome.
Oh, so what I will say is this. We have 30,000 students who attend Temple and only 5 live on campus. And so every single student is welcome to attend every single thing. And as a matter of fact, if your student is a commuter student, I would triply encourage them to come, because that will mean that they are feeling connected to the campus in particular ways. And so, yes, 1,000-fold, we want our commuter students. We have a lot of different organizations that they can be a part of. We have commuter lounges on our campus, and we have spaces for them to be able to sit and relax. The Essential Needs Hub has a lot of space in there where it's intentionally built so that students who between classes don't have a place to go can go and sit and study or eat or talk to somebody about the resources that they might need. And so, yes, 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 we love our commuter students. We do a lot of work with them. We have an off-campus housing office that helps our commuter students learn things about landlord and tenant rights. If you are somebody who has a student who is renting an apartment off campus, we have what's called the Best Nest program, and we list all of the landlords who pledge to be a part of the Temple community and work to support our students to thrive. If your landlord is not on that list, they are not somebody who's gone through our Temple training, and we cannot guarantee that they care about your student the way that some of these other places might. And so really do the research if you are somebody who is having your student live off campus on their own. And if they are living with you at your home and are going to be commuting up, that's a conversation that you need to have as well, is what is the rhythm and the expectations, because they might have friends who are out and about. Their classes might not get done till 8 o'clock. They might be going to grab food. So you really need to, ahead of time, talk about what your parental expectations are about their schedules, about when they should be coming and going, and things like a curfew, because college kids on campus don't have a curfew. And so if our off-campus friends are hanging out with our on-campus friends and they're thinking about coming and going, it is very different. It is a very different situation than high school. And so we would encourage you to have those conversations about your home and expectations before the academic year starts.
Yeah, I love that we even have a commuter student organization too, where they get together. I heard that they often get together and go to movies together in the city and do a lot of other activities together in the city. So I think that's been wonderful
Yeah.
that we did. Jodi, we have another question about how can families recognize when their student may be struggling, even if they're from a distance?
Ask me that one more time, Brittany.
So they're wondering how families can recognize when their student might be struggling, even though they're,
Gotcha.
interacting with them from a distance.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have done a lot of work in this area, and one of them is that sometimes the students don't have the words to describe how they're feeling, but they have emojis and they have thumbs ups, thumbs downs, um, and maybe establishing a little bit of a language code with your kids so that you know, like, okay, they're just busy. And so when you're just busy and you just can't get back to me, this is our symbol for each other. And if you are feeling like you are not in a great space, this is our symbol, and this is where I'm going to know. And saying to them, listen, you and I need to find language together where if you are sending out a flag or a signal for help, that I know that that is happening. Right. And so have that conversation, but also look for particular things, right? Are they, are they doing well in their classes? Are they going to their classes? Are they spending time on campus? Asking them questions like like Brandy was suggesting before, how are you? How is your spirit? Did you do one thing today that was going to push you a little bit outside of your room? Like, did you go for a walk? Or did you find the ice cream shop that we're always talking about? Or did you say hello to your professor after class today? Giving students small milestones that they can feel like they accomplished something to get them involved in the community matters. And so knowing and taking an active part in what is happening on the campus matters to them. We will be sending you information to say, hey, during this first 6 weeks, here's kind of the normal behavior that you're going to see. In the first week or two might be this. And then and like within that 4 to 6 week period of time, generally, these are the signs that you will see that your student is acclimating to school. Sometimes it takes a little longer. But if you're not seeing some of those signs, then start thinking about how can I talk with Jodi? How can I talk with Brandy about what the next steps are? Sometimes it's just that they might not know where to go to get something resolved for them. We try to guide you through parent and family programs to say, hey, this is what's happening now on campus. The majority of students should be having their first midterm. Their midterm grades should be coming in now. You should ask your student how they did. If they're not getting, I will tell you this. At Temple, if a student gets below a 2.5, they do not do as well as they could in terms of completing their college degree. So it is really, really important that you know how your child is doing in their classes because that is a key indicator to whether they are going to do okay at the institution. And so with that first midterm grade, you're going to know, are you on track to get above a 2.5 or below? Because if you're below a 2.5, that first 6 weeks should be the trigger to say, okay, did we maybe have accommodations in high school that we don't have now? Do we need to do those accommodations? Do you know where the tutoring center is? Have you talked with your faculty member about how you're studying and what ways they might recommend to be able to do a little bit better? That first 6 weeks is your key indicator for where they're going to go. The other things are they sleeping okay? Have they eaten? Have they connected with their roommate a little bit? Have they tried something a little bit new? They're not going to go out and run the institution within the first month of school. So don't expect that. But I would do a little bit of research on your own to say, how do I know who my student is? You remember they've had transitions every year, right? They went from elementary school to middle school. They went from middle school to high school. They've probably had a relationship or two happen at this point, whether that's a best friend or a significant other. You know your students, you know the signs to look for. Just remember, this is a new transition, so look for those signs again. You know them. They've already had several big ones already.
That's great advice. Jodi. Kind of along those lines, what advice would you give to parents for them to give to their students? Or when they talk to them, say they haven't yet found their place or their people yet or their peers?
It's a great question. Number one, it's okay. It is 100% okay if they are still looking to find their way. Like I said, most people are faking it until they make it, and some do it a little bit better than others. I was one of those students that did not do great until the end of my first semester. And that was when I started looking forward to coming back. I would say the questions that you should be asking, the ones we just addressed before, but other things would be, how do they like their classes? How are they feeling connected to them or not feeling connected to them? Are there things that they like about the university? Ask them what they like. Start with the positives. What is it, what's happening there that you like? Tell me about. And if they're like, I like nothing, then let's have a different conversation. But they might be like, well, the campus is actually really pretty. Or my roommate is pretty funny, or I liked the organization that I saw that was interested in this thing. If you frame it in as a proactive versus reactive framework for them, it allows them to kind of say, well, yeah, this is hard, but I do like this class. Not everybody's going to like chemistry. I hate it. But I did love my English class. And so I didn't hate all my classes, right? There's something that find the nuggets of the things that they like that you can expand on to say, well, that's great. So maybe we think about the fact that you want to do this or you want to do that. Um, you will see signs if they are not doing well, right? If they are not thriving and they are just kind of barely surviving. And that is okay too. Sometimes it's a really hard transition. That's when you reach out. That is when you call and say, "Hey, I'm not sure that Billy is doing well. Can somebody go and just check on him?" We'll send an RA. We'll make sure the RA checks in on him that night. We'll send a peer mentor. If they're involved in a class, I might ping the faculty member that they see every day and say, "Hey, John, can you just take a look and let me know how Billy's doing in your class this week? Because we're just doing a little bit of a check-in on him." We have a care team that does emergency response work for our students. So and we have it's through our dean of students office. So everything from a sprained ankle to a wellness struggle to a relationship issue. We get all of these different heads ups to our care team and they check in on the student. And then they do it with timeliness too. And they say, okay, if I don't hear back from you within this amount of time, this is our next step for how we're going to handle things. And most of the time, students are like, my mom is worried. I am fine. I just didn't get the chance to write to her this week. And we say, okay, she is worried. You are in a city. Call your mother back, right? We will say that too. But if there are things that we need to be concerned with, we handle those things. Um, it's difficult because every student is different. But if your gut is telling you, I need to check in with somebody, do not think just because they're in college that you shouldn't check in with somebody. It is okay for us to guide you a little bit on the conversation and say, these are reasonable expectations. Or if I'm being a little bit honest with you, you're probably asking a little bit much because this is what's happening in their life right now. And we can help guide those questions, but you should always know that you can reach out to our teams in the Dean of Students Office and family, parent and family programs. And to me, we get them all the time. That is what student affairs is. And we can guide you on what is normal versus what would we be a little bit concerned about. And it is a safe space. We don't have to tell your kid anything. We could just guide you on the conversation because we are here for each one of you.
That's great, Jodi. The care team is so essential, and a great resource. And along those lines, what do you think some other resources that Temple offers that are available to students that families may not realize exist here?
So you're seeing a beautifully smiling face of one of my colleagues, Deanne DiCrescenzo. Deanne oversees engagement and leadership and student success on our campus. And so those are all of the wraparound services that help us. And so, like I said, the Essential Needs Hub. If a student doesn't know where to go to the hub. That hub is trained with peer mentors who are trained in intake. That is um, I don't like the word for it, but it's trauma-based intake so that they understand that somebody might be coming into the space who is struggling or has a need, and how do we care for them when they first come in. We have peer mentors, first-year student peer mentors through our mentor collective program that you will find out about and you will hear about not just at orientation, but during weeks of welcome. We have our counselors in our health center and our wellness center. We have our clubs and organizations. Every single person that is in those spaces, or you might just be seeing me, but every single one of them is trained in the same conversation that I am having. And so really making sure that you have your RA, you have your hall director, you have your faculty member, you have the health center and all of the things that we just listed. Go to any office. There is a staff member that will be happy to help have a conversation. And most people know when they don't know where to go, they send them to our dean of students and my office because then somebody will get help. And we're ready for it. And we put our sneakers and our t-shirts on, especially for the first few weeks of school, so that we can get people to where they need to go quickly. So it's not a problem.
That is so true. I you talked earlier a bit about what, communicating with your student And during orientation, a question that our orientation team leaders have, our student leaders get often is, parents really are wondering, what does healthy communication look like between students and their families? Is it daily? Is it weekly? How often should parents be asking for proof of life from their students?
Um, so I am old. And so it's a little bit different from when we were all in college, right? Like once a week, you would kind of reach out and say, but there's a different form of technology and communication. If you're somebody who communicates via text well with your son or daughter all of the time, do it. They want to hear from you too, and they will tell you like, and if it's a significant, I would not say if you haven't heard from your son or daughter in 12 hours to not don't panic. They are trying new things and they are going new places. But if you are somebody, and I will tell you that I talk to my mother every day, just over text, how's the day? And it can be quick and it can be back and forth. And if you just get a thumbs up, that's great. If you get a K, great. That's what my kids, I have boys, so that's what they reply back to. But I have a niece who lives with me too, and her communication is entirely different than my son's. And so, um, if I don't hear from her for 24 hours, I know something's wrong because I hear from her every 5 seconds about something. Um, I think that you will find your natural rhythm. Maybe you tell them at the beginning, like, hey, let's just establish that we'll do a once a day check-in. I'm not going to stalk you, but can you just, if I send you, are you okay? Can you at least send me this so that I'm not worried because I'm here worried about you. The other thing that I would highly encourage you to do is to not stalk them on Life 360 and Google where they can drop a pin and tell you. Don't do that. Let them have a little privacy in terms of whose room they're at, where they are. Feel free to keep it on the phone, but really try to reserve yourself from checking it unless you 100% need to. If this is your first time and you haven't had somebody go to college before, um, this is where they are really learning new relationships and things like that, and they don't really want you inside of that space. And if you have gone to college or you have lived away before, just remember, would you want your parent looking to see where you are right at this moment in time when you are trying to do something as a grown up?
Jodi, what do you hope every Temple student gains from their experience beyond just earning a degree while they're here at Temple?
Oh my God. So I will tell you that I went to college and I never left, right? I just love college so much. I love what it gives to people. I would want any single one of our students to feel like they can do it. They can do the hard thing. They can live in a city. They can go to Rome. They might ask you if they can go to Japan. They might say, I am going to try this internship or I'm going to succeed. I want our students to know that they belong with us. They belong in the spaces that they are in, that there is room for them to seek help, to be able to do the things, but that they can do it. And that's the thing that I would tell you all is that you can do it and they can do it. They can have the hard conversation. It might help. You might have to take it with them. You might have to go back and forth with them, but they can do this. You did it, right? And it wasn't always easy. You did your life. You have this magnificent creature that is now going off to college. They can do it too. You just have to let them figure it out because they will never be as proud of themselves as the time that they figured out the hardest thing and they got it and they succeeded in it. And for you all as the family, I need you to celebrate that with them. Understanding that there are big things, their grades really matter to them, and their special projects really matter to them. And if they send you something and say, take a look at this, you should take a look at it and read it because it matters to them. And so, um, if you're not somebody who naturally stays involved, I would say get a little more involved because it's a new life for them and they are going to try to thrive, and I want you to thrive with them.
So, Rudy, this is similar to what you're talking about now, but also you touched on this in your presentation about how can families really shift from solving problems for their students to coaching their students through them. How do they navigate that shift in wanting to, be the problem solver to encouraging them to advocate for themselves?
Sometimes it's just, so like I said, I'm a little type A, and I'm going to give you the loading the dishwasher experience. I have a particular way that I love it. I can get as many in. It's like a Jenga puzzle piece for me. It's like it's a thing. Some people are really good at it and some people are really poor at it. And I think I'm really good at it. And I think that my husband and boys are very poor at it. But my husband always says to me, Jodi, did the dishes get washed? And I say they did get washed. Whether it's my way or their way, at the end of the day, the dishes still got washed. And what is the battle? Is the battle celebrating the fact that they got washed, or is the battle telling people how to put it in to do it the way that you would do it? And that's what I would think about for your kids. Are they doing the things that they need to? It might not be the way that you would do it, but they're doing it, right? They're getting that job. They're going to the class. They might not be dressed the way that you love. I have horrendous haircuts in my house, but they're still good boys, right? And so really celebrating the wins with them, not telling them the way to do things, but encouraging them for for where to focus, right? Like they might need to figure out how to get a subway card. You might need to say, hey, this is what I know of for this, but they need to go and do it. They need to press the buttons themselves. They need to figure out where to stand. They need to figure out where the closest SEPTA line is for them. Let them do those things. If you're on campus with them and they're nervous to do it for the first time by themselves, walk with them, but walk next to them. Don't walk in front of them to guide them. Walk next to them most of the time at this point.
I love that. That's so important. Wonderful advice. I feel so we have time for one last question. So I love posing this question towards the end of our webinars, and that would be if you could give every Temple family member one piece of advice before classes begin, what would it be?
Talk through what is making you the most nervous and what they are the most nervous about so that you can come to a very basic level of understanding of how to support each other. I would also say talk through that communication piece for how are we going to know that this is working for us? They're going to start seeing you as a human being pretty soon, which is like, life-changing. And so really saying to them, if I just need to know, like I'm here in the same house and you are having the new experience, just give me a thumbs up that you're okay. That's all I'm going to need. Because if you give me a thumbs down, I know you need me. If you give me the thumbs up, I know that you need you, right? Like just have some of those basic conversations to get rid of that base level anxiety because living in the gray is not easy. So create your layers now of what you are actually going to panic about versus not panic about.
Great advice. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today, but I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and especially Dr. Bailey for joining us. You will see contact information on the screen, and if you'd like to reach out with any other questions that you may have, please feel free to jot our information down. Thank you, Dr. Bailey, for spending your time with us. We truly, truly appreciate it. In addition, I'd like to let y'all know that we'll post the recording to this session in our Orientation Hub in the Parent and Family Experience portal shortly for you to reference. And of course, our virtual parent and family orientation is continuing, so please visit the Hub by scanning the QR code to register for any of the listed upcoming webinars and to see recordings of previous webinars. Thank you again, Dr. Bailey. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a very restful weekend. And we look so forward to welcoming you and your students this fall to the Nest. Thank you all so much.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.